Welcome to Beacon Radio with your host, Steve Teal. Beacon Radio, delivering hope, inspiration, and change. For more information about the Beacon, log on to sabeacon.com. And now, with this week's Beacon Radio, here's your host, Steve Teal.
Sports fans, Rampage fans, Colorado Avs fans, and Faith fans, brothers and sisters, even if you're not a sports or hockey fan, you want to know Rocco Grimaldi. We're going to talk faith. We're going to talk family. We're going to talk hockey. We're going to talk about what God is doing in Rocco Grimaldi's life. This guy is a rising star. You want to meet him. You don't want to miss it. And let me say, I've been out to a Rampage game, and our producer, Roland Rees, he's the PA announcer. You're going to hear his voice throughout the show a little bit, too. He's got a few special surprises for us. Hockey is the one sport, you guys, you know I love sports, but it's the one sport that you really need to see in person. I mean, TV is good, but in person, you really get a taste for the speed and the power of that game. Tomorrow, the Rampage play at the AT&T Center, 3 p.m. against the Cleveland Monsters. You don't want to miss it. And spring break, they're playing throughout. If you're in town, they're playing March 14th, 17th, 18th. Tickets start at $10, and I'm just grateful for the Rampage and this time to meet Rocco Grimaldi. And I want to say thanks to the Rampages, Kyle Zavea. Man, he has just done a great job, and I am really grateful. Listen, you have young athletes, they need to hear from Rocco Grimaldi. He's got a strong message. You're going to have a blast. It's going to be really special. So I am Steve Teal, hosting Beacon Radio, delivering hope, inspiration, and change. We're coming right back with Rocco Grimaldi after this break.
Beacon Radio is part of the San Antonio Beacon newspaper, and you can read it right now at sabeacon.com. For over 15 years, the Beacon newspaper has been delivering hope, inspiration, and change. And now you can read radio interview excerpts from Matt Powell of Third Day, Sadie Robertson of Duck Dynasty, Kenny Wilson of Haven for Hope, and Joel Smallbone of For King and Country, and many other great features. Go to sabeacon.com for the newspaper.
Listeners, Saturdays I get to talk to these great difference makers, and then on Sunday I get to pastor difference makers at Momentum Bible Church. Great people like our children's ministry leaders Rosie Carrasco, Anaya Smith, Hope Cornwell, my wife Chris, and many others loving and teaching kids. What a blessing. We meet at Cibolo Green Elementary School Sundays at 10 a.m. out by Johnson High School. MomentumBibleChurch.com has directions. Hope to see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Hey, Beacon Radio listeners, I am excited. I'm pumped. Let me tell you something. We've got a great American sports story going on, and I love that we're right in the middle of it. It's fun. I love to catch a great story as it's happening, not just down the road when Rocco Grimaldi is a household name in the NHL, hoisting the Stanley Cup. This story is great. Listen to this. Is he from Canada? No. He's a California kid. I love that. Is he 6'2"? No. He's 5'6". All Rocco does is win, 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 no matter what. That's what he does. U.S. national team, U18 and U17, he's got game winners, gold medals, incredible. National NCAA D1 national champion at University of North Dakota, and now scoring game winners for our San Antonio Rampage, leading his way up. I wanted to interview him now because he's going to be with the Colorado Avs before you know it, and we're not going to get a chance to talk to Rocco Grimaldi. But here in San Antonio, he's leading the team in points. Last I knew, Rocco, you were among the AHL league leaders and game winners, which does not surprise me at all. You were also recently the AHL Player of the Week. Rocco Grimaldi, welcome to Beacon Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Man, we appreciate it, and I'm real excited to talk hockey. I don't have an extensive hockey background. My background is my 3 nephews. They all grew up playing hockey. I've got my last one is playing in Canada, some college hockey up there. And so my extent, I don't have expertise, but I'll tell you what, I love sports. I got to see you play with the Rampage down at the AT&T, and you scored a goal, of course. And it was just a blast watching you play. You've got some mad skills, my brother.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, and listeners, I want y'all to know we are going to talk about faith. I've just had a great time doing research on Rocco and his Christian faith, and really interested to hear that too. But hey, Rocco, let me ask you, help our listeners who may not know, and I know we've got Rampage fans that are tuning in just to hear more, and we've got our fans that are tuning in to get to know Rocco Grimaldi. But tell me about growing up in California. How did you get the hockey thing going? I mean, how did that even happen?
Yeah, well, my sister, who's 7 years older than me, had a friend when she was in the sixth grade who happened to play hockey, and they were pretty good buddies, and so he invited her to a game, and, my whole family and I went along and watched them play, and right from the start, I was 4 years old, and right from the start, I just fell in love with it. I think I was playing baseball and some other sports at the time, and hockey was just so much different than anything I'd ever seen, and it was, fast-paced, and it was constant action, and I just fell in love with it and wanted to start, so I asked my parents if I could, and they said sure, and we started at the YMCA with a ball and roller hockey, and half a year later I got on the ice.
Wow. So even at 4 years old, I mean, you must have been a really athletic kid at that age. I mean, you were already doing baseball and other sports, and just to pick up hockey like that, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I definitely get some good genetics from my family. Our family's a bunch of freak athletes. My sister is a collegiate athlete, collegiate women's athlete of the year in Oklahoma State. Her last year there, and so my dad's a triple black belt and was a long distance runner in high school. My mom, they both went to the police Olympics for different sports: swimming, diving, tennis, a lot of things. Both my parents, so it's impressive family.
That is impressive. And I'm an Oklahoma Sooner. What was your sister doing at Oklahoma State? What did she play or do?
She's a soccer player there.
Soccer player. Oh, man, that is impressive. And speaking of, your genetics, I remember reading, I think it was the NHL, I don't know if it was a scouting combine or what, but maybe you were second in the vertical jump, like 29 inches or something ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember hearing that I was pretty high up there because I was one of the first ones to go. I don't know, how people after me finish, because once you're done, you're kind of done. And you don't really hear the results. But, I was pretty high up there for a bit. And if I finished that high, great. It's something that I pride myself on is different kind of physical tests that I can do. And that's something that I, pride myself on. That's fun.
Yeah, well, and you're just a freak athlete. Like you said, that's just what your family is. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's good genetics for sure.
Well, you've done a lot with those genetics, too. You still, even with those great genetics, you got to work and you got to make it happen. And to do what you've done, I think about my nephews, and I think about, the all three of them were real good. But the last one, he's 6 foot, something like that. And not a big, thick guy, but pretty good size. And, I remember hearing, people would say he's undersized. And yet here you come along, 5'6". It is amazing to me what you're doing. It just is incredible. Yeah,
well, I have the good genetics, and then you have the genetics that aren't so good to certain people, which is the small factor. I'm the tallest one in my family. I think my dad's like 5'5", mom's 5'2", sister's 5'3", I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that. Everyone's tiny, so I got those genetics working for me too, I guess.
Yeah, but I love, reading about your story that I think I also read about maybe the NHL, combine or what. I know NFL and stuff, so I forget if they call it a combine too. But
yep, they do.
Okay, all right. At the combine, they were asking you, hey, so you're 5'7", and what did you say? Do you remember what you said?
I probably said something like, no, I'm 5'6". I want to be the shortest, so don't give me extra inches, because that's not helping my cause.
Now, talk to me about that. Why would you want to be the shortest?
Well, if you're already so short as it is, why would you not want to be the shortest? That's just how I look at it. If you're not going to break records for being the biggest, tallest, or strongest, you might as well break records in some other way.
I love it. Man, that is awesome. Did you always have that kind of attitude as you were growing up? And I do want you to tell us more about, I know you moved from California to Michigan as you're getting more competitive in hockey, but what, did your parents just give you this thing? I mean, because we're not talking about Rudy. We're talking about an athlete that is a great, great hockey player. And so did your parents like empower you and just to think that way, or what was it about you that just was so competitive?
Yeah, I mean, I think I get that from my family as well. All four of us in my family are really competitive, obviously with sports and just life. We're pretty competitive people. But my parents were always big believers in me, as well as my sister. They always pushed me to be the best I could be. It was never about being the best on the ice or the best player in the world or whatever. It was always just something that being the best that I can be, because that's all we really have control of, is just ourselves and our effort and our attitudes. So they always pushed me to be the best that I can be. And it just so happened that hockey was a sport that was just, made for me, it seems. And a lot of people thought that my size was going to be something that got in the way and was going to be something where I wasn't going to be able to make it to even junior hockey level, college level, pros. They never thought I was going to make the next level, and it was just something that I kept pushing through, and something that I really, really never thought was going to stop me. I don't think there's ever been a time in my life where I said, you know what, I'm too short to play. I never doubted myself or my abilities. I always believed that this was, something that God blessed me with, He gave me talent with, and so that was something I can use to glorify Him. Obviously, when you have a family who pushes you every day to be the best that you can be, and someone that pushes you to keep working hard and keep getting better, it definitely comes easy to get better and to keep wanting to work hard and keep being motivated to play. So I've definitely been blessed with the skills to play this game. I've been blessed with a great family who's been pushing me along the whole way.
Right. Okay, and listeners, we're talking to Rocco Grimaldi. Great American sports story, and he's already played in the NHL with the Florida Panthers and a little bit with his parent team now, the Colorado Avalanche, and we're catching him as he's a rising star, and he's been tearing up the AHL for the San Antonio Rampage. I want you to get to see this man before he is a household name up in the NHL. I want you to enjoy being a part of it now, as I am. So, Rocco, as you're talking about growing up and people are telling you kind of every step of the way, like, yeah, you're too small or you're too this or too that. I mean, that's pretty much how it went.
Yeah, ever since I started, when I started, I was like 4.5 years old, and when I really started, once I finally learned how to skate and everything, it probably took a little bit of time. My dad says it didn't take much. He said I got out there right away and grabbed one of those push things on the ice to help you stand up, and I basically just pushed it away and started skating. But I don't remember that exactly. But once I really started playing hockey around like 5 years old, there was no one my age playing, especially in California. So I had to go with a 9 and 10-year-old group, and they were worried about me if I was going to get hurt and all that stuff. And then they saw that I was just a really aggressive kid, and kids were like a foot taller than me, and I was still like running into them and hitting them, and even if I fall down, I get right back up. And they were like, "Wow, okay, I guess you can play with a 10-year-old, sure." And then ever since that, it's been every level. I mean, I remember I was going to play midget hockey. I was like maybe 15 years old, and I was going to play on the 18-year-old team. And
wow,
just reading what people were saying. I remember one. I'll probably never forget it. The guy said something along the lines of, "Rocco Grimaldi is going to try to play on the 18-year-old team, and he's only 15. That's going to go so well for him. It's going to be just like someone falling off a 15-story building or something like that."
Wow.
And it was just like,
wait, who writes that? Who writes that about 15-year-old kids? Come on.
There's a lot of trolls on the internet these days. So
that's true.
You just have to enjoy them when you get a good one like that. So, I mean, I've seen that for years at every level, and I'm still here. So that's how it works.
You're listening to Beacon Radio. I'm Steve Teal. More of our interview with Rocco Grimaldi right after this.
Here's a crazy question for you. How well do you know God? Now let me clarify before you answer. There's a difference between knowing about God and actually knowing Him. You see, God is a personal God, and I don't think He wants us to just know about Him the way we might know about a celebrity if we looked them up on Wikipedia and read a bunch of facts about them. No, God wants us to know Him personally. He wants us to know Him by experience. Because He's a personal God, He wants us to know His presence, feel His comfort, be able to discern His voice and His wisdom. He wants us to actually see His hand at work in the circumstances of our life. The way I like to say it is that God wants us to know Him in our knower, that deep place. If you want to know Him like this, then ask Him, God, will you show up in my life? I want to know you more. Trust me, God loves to answer that request. Hey, this is Pastor Kirk Freeman. Since you're on the internet, check out our website at crossbridgecommunitychurch.com.
Puck lands to Grimaldi, feeds Radford. Radford, Jelena going to the net. Back to Grimaldi, shoots, scores! Rocco launches one from the line, past the glove of Peters and in.
Beacon Radio, Steve Teal. You can reach me at steve@sabeacon.com. We're delivering hope, inspiration, and change. And now more with Rocco Grimaldi. Talk to me about, it's pretty amazing what you've done. I mean, you were on the U17, U18. They bumped you up to the U18. Now, again, you got to help me with my hockey, but, the youth national team for the U.S. Is that right? Am I getting that right?
Yep, the national team, yep.
That is phenomenal. And again, sometimes the perception of somebody just thinking someone's not going to be big enough or whatever, and you just kept overcoming and keep overcoming. I think it's a phenomenal inspiration to all of us, really.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. There's definitely been a lot of people who have inspired me in many different ways, so this is just something that I've been called to use. Right.
Well, who has inspired you along the way?
Actually, I'm looking at him right now. I'm reading a book by him. Tim Tebow has definitely been probably my biggest inspiration. I just started his second book a couple weeks ago. And
is that right?
Actually, just my desk right here. So,
yeah,
pretty easy to answer there. He's obviously gone through a lot of ups and a lot of downs in his career. And the thing I respect the most about him is that his faith in God has been solid. Obviously, there's been challenges to that as well, just like with all of us. When our faith's tested, when things are going our way and when things aren't. And just the way he's handled himself in the media and how people are constantly saying bad things about him and this and that about football and all this other stuff. And he's just remained faithful to God. And, I was actually seeing a few days ago, he put on his Kings and Queens event, which is this foundation, brings handicapped children into this big event where they're all, it's like a prom, basically, a big prom. They're all given the crown as the king and queen of prom, and it's a special thing for these kids who never were able to attend, whether they were in the hospital sick or whatever the case. And, just to see how he continues to live his life and bring joy to people around him and bring the gospel of Jesus to people around him, it's amazing. And definitely someone I emulate and look up to and someone I want to be like, and hopefully meet one day would be great as well, because he's a pretty extraordinary young man.
Yeah, that's. I think you're right, and I think you are too. So I think that will happen sometime. Well, I think that's interesting too. Is a hockey guy, and here you are emulating. Maybe it's not even about sports, like you said. Maybe it's about his faith and being an athlete. But I think that's kind of interesting that it's a football player that you emulate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's always been more. The people that I like, there's obviously hockey players that you like, you respect their game. But for me to have a role model and someone that I really model my life after, it definitely goes way deeper than sports. And that's why, Tim Tebow is one of those guys that I respect because of his faith. Because there's no way I'm going to be telling someone, my role model is, X, Y, and Z guy, and, he's posting wrong things on the internet and doing dumb things or whatever. I'm not going to emulate someone who's just good at a sport. It's so much deeper than that, and that's why I respect him a lot.
Right, awesome. And this is Steve Teal. I'm your host, Beacon Radio. We're talking to Rocco Grimaldi, up and coming, going to be an NHL star, plays for your San Antonio Rampage. You're going to want to see him, and I'm having a great time. I know you are too, and I do want to talk with Rocco. I want to ask you about that faith. And I want you to tell us where did that faith in Jesus? Obviously, you've got it strong. Where did that come from?
Just like the genetics came from my family. My faith was, because of my family as well. I was raised in a Christian home, received Jesus when I was 4 years old. My mom asked me in my room one day if I wanted to receive Christ, and I said, of course. And that day forward, I've been living my life with him in relationship, and started reading my Bible in the 3rd grade, and at a pretty young age, I went to Christian schools, memorizing Bible verses, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, the real faith story is when does your faith become your own and not just your family's? I mean, a lot of people are, quote unquote, born into whatever, Christian, Catholic, whatever, and they say, when they ask you, are you, what faith are you? Oh, I'm Catholic. They don't really know what that means. They're just, I'm Christian, I'm Catholic because of my family. And so, I mean, the thing that separated me, I think, was when I was in the 3rd grade, and I felt the Holy Spirit really tell me that it was time for me to start reading the Bible.
Wow.
And to really start this relationship. It wasn't just I'm a Christian because my family is. I'm a Christian because I walk in a relationship with Jesus, and I'm called to get to know Him, and reading the Bible is one way I get to know Him. And so I started reading in 3rd grade. I remember 3rd grade was pretty easy for me. I almost skipped it to go to 4th grade, and so I didn't end up doing that, which gave me a lot more time because I'd finish all my work, and I'd sit there, and I'd just get ahead of my Bible reading. And that's how it started. And I've been reading the Bible, just about every day since. Obviously, you miss days here and there, but I've been reading it ever since. And now they got the Bible app with all the cool devotionals. I'm always on there, and it's pretty special. So that was probably the 3rd grade was probably the time that it really, really took off.
In 3rd grade, you were hearing the Holy Spirit saying, okay, let's go. It's time for you to grow. Yeah.
My family's a bunch of faith warriors, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to brag. Well, I guess I am bragging on. So whatever. I am bragging.
Good.
So my mom and dad are definitely faith warriors. My mom's the louder one of the two, but my dad's the really humble, soft-spoken one. It's cool to have that variety. But then I also have grandparents that are the same. My one grandma has prayed for me every day for forever, and not just a prayer bless Rocco today. I mean a prayer that takes an hour and a half.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
I mean she's been calling me her little David, David and Goliath ever since I was a baby.
Wow.
And so she would teach me Bible verses and scriptures and stuff when I would go to her house. When both my parents were police officers working late shifts, I would stay with my grandma, and she would teach me a lot of things of the Bible and pray with me and all that stuff, and my parents would too. So it's been a pretty cool journey. It's good to have people like that in your life.
Oh man, it's so great to have, man. That makes such a big difference. All right, so as you're growing up, I mean, at 3rd grade, to be building your relationship with God, with Jesus, is amazing. So at some point, you and part of your family moved to Michigan to pursue hockey, or what happens there?
Yep. At the time I was 10 years old, I was playing in a tournament in Quebec. It's called the Quebec TV Carnival. And it's the biggest tournament in the world for 10-year-olds. They play at the old Quebec Nordique Arena, who's an NHL team.
Right.
A team that's a junior team plays there now, and it's a 16,000-seat building. And the building actually fills up, sometimes even to 16,000, but sometimes even 10,000 and all this stuff. And it's a huge tournament, teams from all over the world. And I was playing in this tournament, and there's the big thing at the tournament, besides hockey, obviously, is pin trading. Each team has their own pin.
Mm-hmm.
And my pin was so small. The little California team that I was on, we had such small pins. Everyone else had these giant pins. They looked like a gold medal from the Olympics. This huge thing. And obviously, the guys who were at the pin trading tables were pretty stingy with that. And they'd always rip off kids. They were pretty stingy, and so they would never trade me anything. And so I went back disheartened to my mom and dad. We were sitting watching a game, and I was like, "Mom, no one's going to trade me. I want the Little Caesars pin." It was really, really big, really cool.
Oh.
And so she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And she kind of looked around for a bit, saw a guy a couple of rows up from us wearing a Little Caesars jacket, and said, "Hey, go ask him. He's got to be one of the dads or coaches. I'll go ask if he has a pin." And so I did, and I asked him, "Hey, sir, I play for California Wave, and I was wondering if you have any pins. I really like your pin, and no one will trade me." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, buddy, but I don't have any on me, but I can try to find one for you. What's your name?" And I said, "My name's Rocco." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I know who you are. You played against my kid last year at a different tournament, and where's your parents?" And so he went and introduced himself to my parents, and that started a friendship with this man. His name was Glenn Murray, and a year later he was inviting us to move to Michigan. And it's just random how things like that happen. He told us, "I think it'd be awesome for you to come out, your son to come out here and live with us and play for Little Caesars, and it'll be great for his development in hockey." And for that year, we thought about it and prayed about it. Weren't sure. And then when I turned 12, it was, this is right. The Lord was saying it's good. It's time to go. And this man opened up his house to us. Me and my mom went first, and my dad then went a few months later and met us. And we lived in this man's house for the year and started my play with Little Caesars. And this man was actually the son-in-law of the owner of the Detroit Red Wings, Detroit Tigers, Fox Theater. Yeah, Mr. Illich, who just passed away a few days ago.
Yeah, I saw on your Twitter feed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I said, on my Twitter, when I said thanks for all you did, Mr. Illich, him and his family literally did a lot for me. It wasn't just one of those, RIP posts. It was a serious thing. I know their family very well.
Wow.
They're awesome people. So that's the person that I randomly met trying to find a pin. And, it's funny how God works those things out and puts people on your path. And for him to be sitting there, my parents to be sitting there, I don't really believe in random.
Right.
I just believe that was set up. And so for, the Murrays to be there and just be there for us has been awesome. So it's pretty cool.
You're listening to Beacon Radio. I'm Steve Teal. More of our interview with Rocco Grimaldi right after this. Are Sundays a joy for you? They are for me because I get to go into the presence of God at Momentum Bible Church. Our worship leader, John David Cornwell, is so gifted as a musician and leader, but also has the biggest heart to lead us into God's presence, to encounter him, and to praise Jesus. And he has a great team, too. Join us at Momentum Bible Church Sundays, 10 a.m. at Cibolo Green Elementary School near Johnson High School. MomentumBibleChurch.com has directions and information.